To this very day, I am of the opinion that if Ric Flair was booked to wrestle a bear in outer space every Monday night, World Championship Wrestling would still be in business today. In fact, if WWE wants to score top dollars and a high buy rate at WrestleMania XXX, they should go ahead and have Daniel Bryan Danielson wrestle a bear for the world title. Now that is money. But enough about that. This is WCW Nitro for the original PlayStation, and this is a video that has been a long time coming. Now previously, I had done a review of WCW Nitro for the PC, which was a slightly updated version of the original PlayStation released with updated rosters, additional network play capabilities, and a Battle Royal function. Being that this is the first iteration of Nitro, this PlayStation version obviously lacks these additions, and its roster is somewhat different from the PC and Nintendo 64 versions of the game, as are the game's trademark rant videos that each of the main 16 WCW wrestlers shoot out, which are no doubt the highlight of the overall package. In any case, there's a couple of modes of play in Nitro. The exhibition match is a quick match that you could pick your opponent and whatnots, while the tournament mode has you picking a WCW or NWO wrestler of your choice and fighting off a number of opponents on your way to the belt. They do not specify which belt you're competing for, whether it's the World Championship or the television title or the Western States Heritage title. It's just the belt. The number of matches you'll have to wrestle on your way to the belt is determined by the wrestler you've selected. You can either wrestle as many as 10 matches or as few as 3 depending on the wrestler you pick. Funny how a main event level talent such as Hollywood Hogan needs to wrestle 10 matches to win the belt, while a lower tier guy such as El Dandy only wrestles 3 matches for the belt. Realistically, it should be the other way around, but realistically, Hogan wouldn't wrestle more than 1 match to win the belt. It's in his creative control clause, brother. Wait, what's that? It's not 1997 anymore? That joke is dated, nobody's gonna get it? Okay, sorry, my bad. It wasn't really a joke, it was a shitty reference, but I digress. So once you pick your wrestler of choice, you start your match. Obviously, the point of Nitro is to win matches via pinfall, submission, or even countout, and you'll need to pull off some moves to bring your opponent down. And in order to perform moves, you'll have to key in button combinations. Each wrestler has a number of special moves along with a finishing maneuver that you can perform when your opponent's meter is in the red, and each of these moves requires some kind of weird button combination. It's sort of like the Acclaim offerings that would come around later, such as WWF Attitude or the ECW games, although Nitro doesn't contain nearly as many moves. Also, there's no moves list that you can access in-game, so unless you have the instruction manual on hand, or can be bothered to look up a guide online, you'll mostly find yourself mashing buttons in hope of pulling off some more basic moves, such as suplexes and power bombs. There's not even a dedicated grapple button, only an action button, which has a number of functions including pinning a downed opponent and entering and exiting a ring. This causes some problems in that when I want to pin my opponent near the edge of the ring, I end up getting out of the ring. It's annoying, but not quite a major flaw. It's just a quirk you have to get used to. Control in Nitro is fairly average. Everything works about as well as can be expected. Figuring out which button does what and remembering the button combinations for certain moves might be an issue. Usually takes a couple tries before you can execute a special move usually. But at the very least, commands are nowhere near as convoluted as the one featured in the Acclaim offerings, for whatever that's worth. I'm generally not too fond of the gameplay, not many unique moves among wrestlers, and it can be a hassle to pull off some of these more special moves, given how controls seem to be non-responsive at times. I think the game would have been better off with a simpler grappling system that allowed for more unique attacks, but that's just me. Also, the game moves at something of a snail's pace. It feels really sluggish at times. Look, I know Hogan moves about as fast as a dead slug, but come on, even he moves faster than this. Maybe if this was a... Wait, am I getting a sense of deja vu here? Feels like I've said all of this before. I did? Oh, sorry, my bad. Truth be told, Nitro looks rather, meh-ish. The opening videos, still images, and rant videos seem to be of decent quality, with little to no pixelation or garbage, which is rather nice for a 1997 PlayStation 1 video game. As far as the in-game graphics go, the rings and various arena set pieces look rather nice for the most part, but the wrestler models are kinda shit looking. Too blocky, too rough around the edges. They move around like stiff puppets, but I suppose they somewhat resemble the wrestlers they're supposed to represent, so there's that. Wrestler proportions might be another story though, but I'm not going to dig too deep there. I suppose back then Nitro would be average looking at best, nothing to set the world on fire or anything to be found here. Today it just looks slightly more average or something. On the title screen and main menu, you'll be greeted with either the WCW Monday Nitro theme song or the NWO entrance music. The actual themes too, not some cheap knockoffs either. The rest of the game, however, greets you with really generic sounding rock music that does nothing to enhance the overall experience. In fact, you might be best served turning the music off because it really doesn't add anything. What also doesn't add anything to the game is the bare bones commentary tracks of Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan. Merely quick quips here and there that feel really disjointed and unfinished. Whatever blurbs you do hear sound somewhat enthusiastic at least, which is a good thing, but then there are occasional blurbs that sound odd. Sound effects and other voices are not worth mentioning, they're just there. How sad it must be that PlayStation owners who rode the WCW NWO bandwagon during its triumphant run in 1996 to 1998 were saddled with a weak hybrid of fighting and wrestling in WCW Nitro. Nintendo 64 owners definitely got the better end of the deal with WCW vs NWO World Tour and the subsequent Aki-produced games that would follow, because those games were a dream compared to Nitro. Nitro feels like a game that doesn't know whether it wants to be a wrestling game or a fighting game. It ends up feeling something akin to some weird hybrid, what with the constant 2.5D perspective and button combination for specific moves and the layout and the health meters and whatnots. You know, sort of like WrestleMania the arcade game, except without the weird mayhem moves, or the brilliant commentary, or the digitized actors, or the fun gameplay. Truth be told, I honestly had my share of fun with Nitro, but that was primarily due to the selection of oddball characters in the game more than the actual gameplay itself. For a quick dose or two, Nitro has its moments, but anyone looking for a halfway decent wrestling game will not find it here.